Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Eric Schmitt just eviscerates George Stephanopoulos on his own show, reminding him where the actual law lies and where the media also lies. Let's dive in.
Do you support this pardon of the former Honduran president?
I'm not familiar with the facts or circumstances, but I think what's telling here is to try to imply that somehow President Trump is soft on drug smuggling is just ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. He's provided border security like we've never seen before. And the fact is, these cartels now, because the southern border is closed, they've gone to the high seas. So President Trump is acting with his core Article 2 powers. No serious legal expert would doubt that the president has authority to blow narco-terrorists out of the water who are poisoning 100,000 Americans every year. If you watched the SEC championship game yesterday, the Big Ten championship game, combine those two stadiums with the number of people there, that's how many people are dying each and every year from the poison that's coming from these narco-terrorists. So the fact is, George, President Trump has been delegated the authority by Congress to designate terrorist organizations. He's done that. He sent a letter to Congress saying he was going to initiate these strikes. We've had regular briefings about it, including from Secretary of State Rubio, including from the high-ranking officials in the Department of Defense. He's executing those. And so now what we have now are Democrats who have such X-ray vision and clairvoyance that they know the intentions of narco-terrorists on boats, yet we're so blind to see that they had a president for 4 years that was operating as a vegetable in Joe Biden. So, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that this isn't all about politics and trying to take out Secretary Hegseth. That's what this whole thing's been about, George. They didn't want him confirmed. They didn't want a realist in place. They didn't want to shift from their pet projects around the world and trying to build democracies in the sands of the Middle East by the barrel of a gun. We have core national interests at stake, the homeland in the Western Hemisphere, and the rise of China. That's what this administration is focused on. The Democrats are just upset about that, and they try to create some controversy each and every week, and it goes nowhere.
What do you mean you're not familiar with the facts and circumstances of the pardon? It's been well reported all across the country. He's the former president of Honduras. He was convicted of conspiring to bring in 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, also guns and other materials. It's been front page news across the country. Aren't you curious about that?
Well, I'm curious about your pushback on that particular point. With your previous guest, you had zero pushback because he's giving the Democrat talking points like you spew every single week, which is probably why your ratings are so bad. But to make the point, what I'm saying is that you're trying to divert here the attention from what the American people actually support. 75% of Americans support us blowing narco-terrorists out of the water in the Caribbean who are trying to poison Americans. There's no real legal debate about the ability to do that. Now, you could have a policy discussion about it, which now you see the Democrats pivoting from the second strike and the war crimes allegation to really what this whole thing is about. Should we be doing it in the first place? I have way more sympathy for my friends, my cousins, my neighbors, those people who've been poisoned by these narco-terrorists, people who've been skinned alive by these cartels as they bring people to the United States, than I do for these narco-terrorists. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So there's legal justification for it. He's doing it. We do have more of a focus on our interests now in the Western Hemisphere, and I'm thankful for that.
Do you support the pardon of the convicted drug smuggler or not?
George, like I said, what we're talking about here are the narco-terrorists poisoning Americans. This attempt to try to focus on a pardon is classic because you've lost the debate now on the narco-terrorist question. Because at the beginning of the week, you had Democrats actually on camera saying you should disobey orders. That's what Senator Kelly and Slotkin were saying. You should disobey orders. And then they went so far as to say that if you don't do that, you might get prosecuted down the road. It's hard to sort of overstate how problematic that is for the chain of command and what it is for a military. The Democrats had their shot at all this, and it was rejected. They wanted to have DEI struggle sessions in our military, transgender surgeries, recruitment was way down. The fact is, under President Trump and now Secretary Hegseth, recruitment is sky high, morale is sky high. They're upset about that because they had an agenda that said that America could be everywhere all at once all the time. Now we have a president that's a realist, focusing on core national interests, including protecting Americans from being poisoned by the narco-terrorists.
Just to clarify, the Democrats you talked about were talking about illegal orders. They were specific about saying it was illegal orders that they were talking about.
Sure, but when you press them on what orders are they talking about, they had no answer. except to say that somehow they should be guessing along the way. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And this is kind of the rabbit hole of Trump derangement syndrome, is that they can't let this thing go. They can't believe that he won. They didn't want Hegseth to be the Secretary of War. They fought it. He was their number one target. They failed at that. And so now you just have a series of issues that come up every week to try to undermine this president and the Secretary of War. And it's not working. They're going to carry out their mission. They executed another strike of a narco-terrorist just this past week. Those will continue, and they're completely authorized. I reviewed the 40-plus page memo by the Office of Legal Counsel. There's JAG officers in these rooms, George, every time there's a strike. So, again, the narrative at the beginning of the week that this was war crimes, that's clearly fallen away, and now the Democrats are peddling another lie.
Ever since Thanksgiving, I have been hearing the lie that Donald Trump drone striked people in boats. And to make matters much worse, after the boat was destroyed, the guys who managed to survive clambered back into what remains of the boat and then were struck again. It turns out the boat was peddling drugs. And the Democrats are defending this. And this is the weirdest part about them clutching their pearls over this. And this is the biggest beef I can possibly have with the entirety of the Democrat Party, the mainstream media, and people who just don't really pay attention to things. The current polls that are out there say about 60% of Americans are completely okay with this operation. Another about 35% say no, they're not okay with it, and 5% say they're completely unsure. Now, in that 35% number, it's usually about 30 of that 35% is Democrat, and the remainder 5 is usually Republican or independent or libertarian. And the reason that those Republicans aren't happy about it is because those Republicans, those libertarians, those independents weren't happy when this occurred during the Obama administration. Do you not remember that Obama was known not only as the deporter-in-chief, he was also known as the drone strike king? That man did not have a drone strike that he didn't like. Hey, y'all, about half this country has high blood pressure. And with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, that means you are going to be sitting across from people that you love that are likely affected by it. Some might not know it, some might not talk about it, but that's why this is the perfect moment to take charge of your health or help someone else with theirs. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com and use my code BRAWL for 20% off. Try it risk-free for 2 weeks. And if your blood pressure doesn't come down, you're going to get a full refund. So there's nothing to lose except your high blood pressure numbers. So use code BRAWL for 20% off of your order today. That's the kind of operations that he tried to run because the mainstream media would give him enough leeway to go, well, we were fighting the good fight. We were not committing troops on the ground. We were fighting the terrorists. And the problem with that is, I think there were about 4 American citizens that were struck by drones. Granted, these 4 American citizens weren't exactly the best people possible, and they decided to, join ISIS or other affiliated groups. But for the mainstream media to be talking this much about, Donald Trump struck some boats. Won't you think of the fentanyl? You can't make this up. This does not pass any sniff test possible. This is the worst moment of Trump derangement syndrome you can possibly get to. Okay? Now, I do have to collect myself for a moment and actually say, you know what? It's possible. Again, it is possible that some of these guys were not peddling fentanyl. They weren't peddling drugs. They weren't narco-terrorists. And it's awful to think about in that consequence. And even in that context. It's not fair to the people who actually are fishing the waters of the Caribbean. And yet, that's not what the mainstream media is focusing on. They're looking at this whole situation like it's another Abu Ghraib. They're looking at it as if Halliburton was mistreating captured prisoners of war. Okay, this is not even in the same realm. The mainstream media is trying to blow this up out of proportion, and it's not working. Americans aren't buying it. Eric Schmitt definitely isn't buying it. And he even states right there at the end, he's actually read the transcripts and he's going, what are you talking about? And so George Stephanopoulos has to deflect from this main story and go to something else. And this is the last big point we got to deal with here. But the Honduras president, who was also peddling narcotics across the U.S. border, got a pardon from President Trump, not just because of a letter. No, that's not why. He got pardoned because Trump is trying to send a message to South American and Central American leaders that if you cross the United States, there is clemency. There is a path forward. All you have to do is surrender, say, I screwed up, allow me to be taken into custody, serve maybe a year, and you will likely be treated very, very well on the international stage, and you won't have to worry about any potential problems from your own home country of properly prosecuting you. All right? This is an out. This is a way out for people like Nicolas Maduro and the mainstream media saying, well, why is Trump pardoning this terrible man? Wait a minute. So peddling narcotics is a terrible thing? Well, yes. Okay. So we need a stronger border security now, don't we? We need better laws in place to take care of these narcotics now, don't we? None of what you saw from George Stephanopoulos matches anything logical. Anything. And it gets weirder and weirder and borders into the realm of insanity, and that's not where you want to be as a country, yet here we are. So no wonder Eric Schmitt is just kind of looking at George Stephanopoulos like, buddy, are you okay? Are you on something? Okay, we get it. Some people need some meds in order to survive. I understand this mindset. I understand this phenomenon. But I don't think Stephanopoulos has the wherewithal, or if he does, he probably wouldn't be on, ABC. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.